This is the Schroth Boss Podcast, a show that helps parents of kids with scoliosis find clarity in their path navigating the scoliosis journey.
You are about to be spoiled. Dr. Katie Blanchard, Schroth Method physical therapist and coach, brings together physical therapists, spine surgeons, and parents to share and discuss tips and tricks for managing scoliosis.
Scoliosis is not easy, but don't worry, we've got your back.
Welcome, Taunia. Thank you so much for meeting with me. So Taunia is from, where are you from?
Loves Park, Illinois.
Loves Park, Illinois. Okay, another Illinois person. Wonderful. I am from the south suburbs of Chicago. And Taunia has scoliosis, and she has been willing enough to share her story with me as I write my book and just to share her story so we can all learn from it. So Taunia, first and foremost, when were you diagnosed with scoliosis, and how did you find out that you had scoliosis?
Okay, so I was diagnosed at the age of 11, and this was back in the 80s, early 80s, when they started doing the Adams forward bend. So, and they did that in gym class. And so they told me to tell my parents, or they might have sent something home, I forget. But then I went to my local doctor, and that's the story.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were 11, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so diagnosed as a kid. And
Yes.
So after that diagnosis, do you remember the degree of curve that they gave you then?
So then it was about a 21-degree curve. And what was interesting is I did go to a specialist down in Peoria. So they did send me to an orthopedic specialist. And and then my grandparents, back then, there wasn't a lot of like chiropractors and that kind of thing around like there are now, but they went up to Mount Horeb, Wisconsin to a chiropractor, Dr. Gonstead. And so we would go spend the whole weekend, and he would do adjustments and go swim and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Made it kind of fun as you were there.
Right.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So started there. And as you went through the years, how have you managed your spine? Like, have you had no pain throughout then? Have you had pain? Have you had difficulties at all?
So for the most part, I've done pretty well. I'm 52 now. So I've gone through periods of really being active with exercise, and then just life gets involved, and so you're not as active. But Pilates has been a big part of my life. Pilates and swimming and yoga. I do all of those and have for over probably about 30 years. So that's really helped me with my core strength and everything.
Yeah, definitely. And staying active is key, first and foremost. I think sometimes, like, I'm a Schroth physical therapist, and so I'm always recommending, you have to do Schroth scoliosis specific exercise, which is great, but first you have to start by being active. So, that's the first step to, keep your cardiovascular health going and just your overall strength, your core strength, your hip strength, and things like that. So that's awesome, and that helps a lot of people just by being active.
Yeah. I would say too, like there was one time when I was, in my mid 30s, I was working for a company, and you know how they do those team building activities? Well, they decided to go bowling, and I was like, okay, bowling, no problem. Well, apparently between all the driving I was doing for my job and then doing bowling, I ended up throwing my back out, and I'd never done that before. And so, I was basically like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. I did my stuff, my stretches, all of that kind of stuff. And that just wasn't cutting it. And so I did go to a chiropractor, and at that stage of my life, it was the wrong thing to do. And I'll just leave it there because I felt like I got hurt versus helped. And so honestly, I was walking around bent over. At one point, like I couldn't get up and like get in the bath to do soaks or anything. I was in so much pain and had to wait till my boyfriend came home. We went to the ER. They did IV painkillers and all of that kind of stuff. And anyway, so that's the most traumatic situation that I've had. And, and now I'm functioning fine, but, there's always that gentle balance of, when a little discomfort comes in, I don't want it to get to the pain situation.
Yeah, which is good. You want to have the tools to go to of when you start to feel something like a muscle spasm or like a flare up or something like that. Have the tools to turn to make sure that doesn't get worse and worse and turn into, a larger problem or a more chronic problem. So that's really good. So through your time of having scoliosis, what has been the biggest challenge for you?
I think for me, it's been like, I'm all about like, I can do everything, which is great because I don't hold myself back. But there are certain things that over time, and life evolves, you get older, all that kind of stuff. So you might be a little more conservative with certain things. And I think for me, it's just helping people to understand that I'm not constantly in pain because, when I wear certain clothes, they can see that, my right hip sticks out a little further and different things. Or like when I'm exercising with Pilates, I go to a studio and the owner of the studio, she's wonderful, but she'll try to push my shoulder down. And I'm like, that's not going to help.
So like other people understanding, that scoliosis is something that you live with, but it doesn't mean that it holds you back from anything that you do. But also, it's a structural thing. So it's not, that Taunia has bad posture and she should just, straighten up.
Right.
It's, she's not able to actually do that because of her scoliosis.
Yeah.
So I think it's, other people just understanding the condition and, even though it's something that you live with every day, it's not something that stops you.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
Very good. So that's something that is challenging for sure. It sounds like you're in a really good spot of taking care of your spine, which I love to hear. You're really active and everything. Is there something that you've learned throughout having scoliosis that you would like to share with other people who have scoliosis?
I think the thing is like, you're a Schroth practitioner. So I think understanding that regular exercise, it's not that you can't do it, but when you can put those elements together that's more specific to your curve, it capitalizes on those exercises so that you're triggering the right muscles to engage because, our muscles do function differently to support the spine in that different position. So we need to help our bodies with things like the Schroth Method to, come back into that more centered situation to make our muscles behave a little more like the typical spine.
Right, exactly. And it kind of goes back to like, if you love a certain activity, like you love doing Pilates, like that is a great activity for you. Besides the fact that Pilates is already really good for scoliosis. But,
right.
Say you love a certain sport, like you love tennis or something like that. A lot of people think, tennis is so rotational that with scoliosis, I shouldn't do that. And, that's not the case. Tennis will still, in rotational sports or any activity that you like to do, will help to keep you strong. And just like you had said, it's important to then counter those exercises with things that are more specific to you, like the Schroth Method, just to take care of your spine, so that you can do those things, those activities that you love even better or for longer as you continue to age.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So you shared a little bit about, what you've learned over time, a little bit of what you've struggled with. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with your experience?
I think the biggest thing is don't be limited by your scoliosis. Use that to empower you to do the things that you would like to do and learn more, because the more we learn about our own bodies, the more empowering we'll feel to just, continue our own journeys, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. And that's something that I like to say a lot too, is the more you learn and the more research you do on your own, the better you can take care of your own spine. And Taunia is a really good example of that because I met you on Facebook and I've seen you in the different like scoliosis groups, and it's all about, sharing your experience and learning from other people's experiences, and then, getting as much information as you can so that, you can take care of your spine as you continue to live on through life.
Very cool.
Good to meet you. And if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love chatting and I love just helping people just like you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Schroth Boss Podcast.
Want more info on scoliosis and the Schroth Method?
Join our free Facebook group or connect with us at schrothboss.com.
See you at the next episode.